Okay, Brian, why don't we start out with having you give a little bit of an introduction of who you are, and then we'll have you start your presentation.
All right, Josh. Well, can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, good. Well, so hello, everyone. My name is Brian Simmons, and I've been blessed to serve alongside of a great team here at Columbia International University and as the Associate Provost for Online Studies. And we've been on quite a ride here over the last several years. And so I'm going to weave in a little of that story with my topic here this morning. My wife, Bonnie, and I have been married 39 years. We have 9 grandchildren. In fact, 5 of them are here for a couple of days, fall break at Mount Perrin Christian School in Marietta. So we're going to hang out a little bit over the next several days. So if you'll see a little head popping in here, I apologize. I tried to put the back porch here off bounds for a while, but well, that's me. So I'd like to talk about developing online content delivery for effective adult learning. And I'm going to just plow right through quite a lot of content here, and then I'll try to save a little time at the end. And I just want to give a little disclaimer. So I looked at the list of participants here, and there are several of you that could do this workshop probably better than me, that have been on this path for a lot longer than I have. But just to give you a little overview, so here at CIU, when I started almost 7 years ago now as Associate Provost for Online Studies, we had 89 online students. Today we have 1170. And we've developed over 26 programs and over 240 new online courses, and have developed quite a team around all of that, which I'll talk about in this presentation. So let's define terms. You all know this. Pedagogy is the study of how children and young adults learn, but andragogy, on the other hand, is the study of how adults learn. There is a difference. Online content delivery. Online education as a mode of program delivery continues to grow because, in my opinion, online education has the potential to best meet the needs of working adults. These working adults have unique needs. And so we need to effectively and efficiently meet those needs. And that requires colleges and university leaders to think outside of a traditional program development and delivery box. Administration. What I mean here is that the effective senior online administrator at the university level has to have a lot of different, it functions in a lot of different capacities. So I've summarized it this way. They have to be a professor, scholar, business manager, democratic leader, applied social scientist at times, and an effective communicator. That's a pretty big job. Complex nature of the position. I'd like to talk about, I heard a little long time ago when you're teaching, share where you're going, go there, and then look back on where you've been. So this is where I'd like to go over the next 20 minutes or so. I'd like to talk about the complex nature of the position. And here we'll talk about role expectations, universal aspects of the position, including pervasive responsibilities. Talk about context of practice. Here we'll talk about university variability, such as differences in size, location, resources, and politics. And then we'll move for a little bit into organization and governance. And we'll talk a little bit about climate and culture, including feelings toward online education and faculty and staff behavior, a little bit on organizational structure and its effect on operations and outcomes, a little bit on policies, including positive working relationships across colleges and departments. We'll talk about leadership responsibilities, including interactions with various university communities, management responsibilities, including material and human resources and continuous improvement, just a little bit on current challenges, and just a little bit on factors contributing success. Let's first touch on the complex nature of the position. Josh has touched on this a little bit already in our opening session. There are role expectations or universal aspects of the position which include pretty pervasive responsibilities for the person who leads online instruction as the senior leader at the university. So this, as Josh said, includes enrollment management. And so this includes admissions people, recruiters, marketing. It includes the passing of the baton from the recruiters to the registrar's office to the instructors. And sometimes that baton is difficult to pass for various reasons. Role expectations include program design and approval. So here we get into work with the provost, the deans, the professors, the staff, the program directors. More on that in just a little bit, but I'm guiding through right now a master's degree in healthcare administration. So it began with hiring a program director, And then from that, we have a performa that we filled out, program description. It went from that to the team of teachers, the administrator, the dean, and the professors in the college within which the program will be housed. From there, after approval, to the curriculum committee. From there to the faculty. From the faculty to the board of directors. And so that's our process. It's a little cumbersome, pretty long. And so that part of the challenge is we're trying to do these stacked S-curves pretty quickly, but yet we have to fit into the current way of doing things on the campus. With course development, and this is where Josh comes in with his team of IDs. We also have some IDs that we hire for various development needs, but we place an ID, an instructional designer with a subject matter expert to design every course with the systems and the structures we've put in place for how we want those to look and feel. And here we get into a tension between allowing professors who function as the SMEs to put their personal touches on things versus uniform look and feel. And we're probably a little more toward the uniform side with uniform syllabi, uniform rubrics, even a uniform flow of the course. We've decided on a Sunday night through Saturday night flow so that professors do not have to work on Sundays and students don't have to work on Sundays. We've decided on, in this synchronous versus asynchronous piece, we've decided on asynchronous, but if there is a synchronous piece, it has to be recorded so it can be shared asynchronously. Things like that. Adult students, we're trying to meet their needs, and adjunct faculty primarily. So I, for the last several years now, have devoted Friday afternoons to hiring, and I've hired now over 200 adjunct faculty. And so there the idea is to be sure that they're consistent with our culture, that they're followers of Christ, sold out followers of Christ who are growing in their academic disciplines, because you can't take somebody where you're unwilling to go yourself or have never been. You cannot impart what you do not possess. And so that's just a really, really important role for this administrative leader. Then a little on the context of practice, this variability such as differences in size, location, resources, and politics. So Josh mentioned that in terms of size, there has to be a growth paradigm that you settle in for. That's a whole nother workshop here, but I'll just say growth is our WIG, our wildly important goal at CIU. And we have a growth paradigm that says we're going to grow. And then as we grow, we'll build in what we need as we go. And we can talk more about that, but it's not a build it and they will come. It's not a field of dreams, because it's impossible to put the resources, for us at least, into developing programs over a year or two where there might not be any students paying any tuition over that time. But that's a philosophical piece that leaders have to decide upon. Sarah, as you all know, allows you to go through one organization to offer online instruction in most every state in the country. And then residential programs, as Josh mentioned, with these stacked S-curves, maybe some regional sites. Resources include people and money. And so we'll talk more about that in a little bit. And then politics, we could politics, many blood-sucking creatures. But the idea here is, seriously, we are in a competition in higher ed for who calls the shots and who spends the money. And that is the definition of politics. No matter the place, I have served in a lot of different organizations through the years, there's always politics. And so the leader of the online program has to understand what that politics is and successfully maneuver through the political scenarios of the university. Organization and governance. I want to sit here a little bit. Climate is the attribute that determines how we feel about online studies at CIU, including feelings toward online education and the resulting faculty and staff behavior. Culture is the shared beliefs, expectations, values, and norms of conduct for individuals and groups who comprise the university. Simply put, culture is how we do things around here and why. Culture is one element of climate. Four elements are ecology, milieu, organization, and culture. So taking those one at a time, ecology is the physical or material frame of the university climate, such as the choice of an LMS. We use Canvas, which we love. The milieu is the social frame of university climate's social frame, such as how traditional and online personnel and faculty interact and treat each other. Organization refers to the structural dimension of university climate, such as line and staff structure, role of deans versus program directors, which honestly we're still kind of working through. role of adjunct versus full-time faculty, load, all of those kinds of things. And those are all really important decisions. And then culture, which is the foundational development of university climate, which begins with mission, vision, and core values. Why this time in just 20 minutes in a presentation on climate and culture? Well, the reason is that Peter Drucker says, culture eats strategy for lunch. In other words, culture is the most important climactic element with respect to online effectiveness. Change initiatives are almost always derailed, if they are derailed, because a significant number of employees believe that the efforts were inconsistent with university culture. And this is the proverbial slippery slope. And so the administrator charged with growing online at a college university has to understand this and navigate this and explain this and defend this and all of the rest. I won't go into detail, but I just had a really good example of that with the curriculum committee with our new program last week, where one of the longstanding traditional faculty members thought that the master's degree in healthcare administration ought to have some Bible classes and some theology classes. Well, I explained it's a 10 course, 3-hour program, 30 hours. We do integrate faith and learning throughout, but we're not going to put individual Bible master's degree. That's just one example. Organizational structure and its effect on operations and outcomes. So I like to say to my PhD students and MOL students in leadership, if you get structure right, you still may not be effective. But if you get structure wrong, you will not be as effective as you could or should be. That is such an important point. So here at CIU, I lead online studies. We've got a provost and executive vice president who have roles in these various things. We have admissions people. We have recruiters, marketing people, deans, different colleges, hybrid programs. Our SIS is Genzabar. We have coding issues, etc. And we can talk more about all of that, but it's pretty complex. And then in terms of governance, the decisions and actions that define an organization's mission, along with its processes, politics, and control mechanisms, is governance. And so in online studies, I've established 2 councils. I've established a curriculum council and a services council. The curriculum council, and these both meet monthly. The curriculum council includes the various deans and all of the program directors. Every one of my new online studies programs has a program director over each one. And so that is the makeup of the curriculum council, and that's where we talk about uniform rubrics, uniform syllabi, the flow of the courses, the design of the degree programs, all of those kinds of things. And we also include our director for organizational research in that online studies curriculum council. And then in the services council, this is where I include all of the process people, the registrar, financial aid, all the schedulers, and those the nitty gritty, just nuts and bolts. And there's always issues that come up that we have to work through. And we're now creating an online student handbook and backfilling that with Student Services Council approved policies. They have to be different than traditional policies if we're going to meet our full potential. And finally, policies, including positive working relationships across colleges and departments. So we have an academic support service department. They deal with plagiarism and other issues, student support. But then we also have some online student support that doesn't come through that office, with an online tutorial service that we've hired, for example, centralized advising. And these are the people that make up this Student Services Council. We also have to decide what we're going to do about 5-week, 6-week, or 8-week cohorts. Those are the various lengths. And now we're actually introducing a dual credit. Ben Lippen Online would be 16-week. So pretty complex there as well. But those decisions are really, really important in terms of policies. So what are some of these specific leadership responsibilities for the lead online person in a college or university? Well, there are going to be interactions with lots of different university communities. Approval of new degree programs, which I've already touched on. Adjunct faculty, identification, assignment, remuneration, evaluation, training. Our program directors now lead that. I've just last month hired a lead program director. So the lead program director meets with the program directors every other week, and the program directors meet with their faculty once a month. And we're now going through those program directors to offer program-specific training, also get them involved in evaluation, closing the loop with SAC-COC accreditation, artifact selection and retention, all of those kinds of things. interactions with communities around student recruitment. We've talked about the recruiters and acceptance, and then service, learning. I actually have a director of online student customer service, and we use the Net Promoter Score to assign a Net Promoter Score after the completion of every course to every degree program in online studies. And then we can point line graph Net Promoter Scores and try to come up with strategies to serve our students better. We've touched on IDs and SMEs. I'm also, in virtue of my position on the president's team, a member of his cabinet, so I call that my first team. But then all of these other groups that I meet, they're the teams that I lead in online studies. And as I've said, there's a number of them, probably 8 or 10 of them. And then we also have an online chaplain with support services that is very involved in what we do. There are also some management responsibilities. So we've touched on leadership. Now here are some management responsibilities. Different people, different skill sets, right? So we have material and human resources and continuous improvement initiatives in the management area. We have online product managers, profitability and margin work with data, the LMS people that make sure that we're publishing and error-free courses, people that work with Sarah, keep that up to date. People who lead the remote workers. Then we've actually added some full-time online people. So we've worked out, what does full-time mean online? Load versus overload. So virtually everything we're doing with our stacked S-curves and online study is all either overload or adjunct driven, because by placing these in full-time faculty load, we reduce our profit margin down to about 0. And so we do need to make money here, because if there's no margin, then there's no mission. And this is the whole adjunct versus full-time faculty discussion. We have the assessment piece with closing the loop for contingent improvements I mentioned, and marketing and brand penetration. I have a lot on that tomorrow, and so I won't touch it now. What are some current challenges? Well, at CIU, I think probably the way I describe our biggest challenge, in my view, is that over the 7 years I've led this, we started off by trying to put old wine into, or new wine into old wineskins. And this is the way I would define the battle with traditional culture. And after a while, when you have that as the strategy, you just kind of feel like the little Dutch boy with your fingers and toes in the leaks in the dike. And so we've now started to develop our own culture with our own way of doing things, with our own program directors. This has helped that a lot, and it has helped to accelerate our growth. As Josh mentioned in his earlier session, there's also a tension between growth and academic rigor. We could unpack that more. Current challenges, another one would be ineffective organizational structure. What is an effective organizational structure? Is it best to have a separate online college, or are there reasons why we want to stay with existing structures? Those kinds of questions. And then a fourth challenge is developing new degree programs adult students want, aligned with real jobs, and catching new waves. And I've been in meetings where I've said something just as innocent as that and offended people, because their mind goes to, well, isn't what we've done traditionally in a Bible college at CIU also aligned with jobs? Doesn't mean it's not. It just means that we're looking at current trends, and Josh mentioned healthcare as an example. Well, clearly, as the population ages, there are going to be lots of really good jobs available in healthcare, and so we're trying to prepare adult students to be leaders in that area. So we have a new AABS in healthcare admin. We've got a new MS in healthcare admin that will be approved by the board this week. And we're looking at online nursing, because these are really great growth areas moving forward. Factors contributing to success. I think one of the things that's really helped us here at CIU is that our president, Mark Smith, helped all of us as a cabinet over time to come up with our wildly important goal, we call it, which is growth. It really helps in a university setting when everybody in the university understands they've got to work outside of their 40-hour-a-week whirlwind and spend 10 hours a week on the WIG if we're going to move the WIG forward, and then focus on lead measures that drive the lag measures and actually see growth happen. That clear WIG of growth is vitally important. Presidential support for growing online is vitally important. I don't know that we could have any stronger support than we have at CIU right now from our president, Mark Smith. A provision of resources is needed. I was given the promise early on that as we grow, I will be provided with the resources I need, which are typically money and people. And that has proven true. And so, as I've said, I've been able to hire over 200 adjuncts. I have teams now of 20 or 30 people in various key leadership roles in various degree programs. And that's necessary to continue to fuel the growth with these stacked S curves and keep quality and service high. I guess I would say it this way. If you want to be successful, put your best people on new and promising initiatives versus solving problems. And so here are a few conclusions. COVID-19 has impacted online learning in both positive and negative ways. Emergency remote instruction is not the same as effective online education. Many who have experienced ERI now have I think, and research has borne this out, now have so many of them have a less favorable view of online education. And I've experienced this in some of the consulting that I do with various conversations I've had with leaders, both K-12 and university leaders. There is a gap between how administrators and professors think last spring went and how parents and students think the spring went. In South Carolina, we see this reflected in swelling private school enrollments who open face-to-face versus going online or blended. And all in all, online instruction is here to stay, and schools will need qualified and experienced administrators to lead organizations from where they are to where they need to be, ensuring that learning objectives are equivalent for all students, regardless of the mode of content delivery. So Josh, back to you here.
Sure thing. Well, let's open it up to questions. We've got about 5-ish minutes we need to prep for the next one. What questions do you have for Brian?
Brian, this is Carson. Do you guys have a rubric that you use if you have so many students to full-time faculty ratio? I know you supplement like Indiana Wesleyan does with a lot of adjuncts, but do you have a process or a thought process of if we have 100 students in a program, we get one full-time faculty or anything like that?
No, we don't have that. I would love to see what you have, Carson.
Well, ours changes, but yeah, we'll
Yeah.
that wig changes, therefore that changes. But yeah, that's what I was trying to see if anybody else had anything like that out there. So.
Brian, the aspect of the emergency remote instruction, talk a little bit about what were some of the things that were done that weren't effective in that process of going online in an emergency situation that could have been repaired or could have been done more effectively had they done the planning or got the counsel that they needed?
That's a really great question. I'll answer that in a multifaceted way. And I'll stick to college.
Sure.
Probably a whole nother animal, but similar kinds of things. So the problem was, right, that we went online in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
So my office did training over the 2 days leading up to going online with Zoom. And we tried to keep things really simple. We said we'll use Zoom. We will be we'll be synchronous with those Zoom sessions. And so basically in 2 days, faculty were trying to take their lectures and things online. If they did do an asynchronous component, we used Loom to record videos. And we also had Canvas in place, of course. Now, we did have a mandate from the provost a year ago that all residential faculty had to use Canvas for grading and for submission of assignments electronically, and those kinds of things. So that helped us a lot. But the problem was that, you know, as you well know, Josh, we'll take 4 or 5 months with IDs and SMEs to develop quality online courses, mm-hmm. where we were just thrust to take what people were doing face-to-face online with Zoom. And it just became impossible to do well over time. It was not sustainable because professors were doing all the teaching with Zoom and learning new things during the day, and then talking to individual students at night and grading papers and so on and so forth, and literally working twice as much as they normally did. And so once we got through the spring at CIU, I worked with the provost, and we did as we were doing this, actually, we did a 5-week, what are you learning from this Zoom session for the faculty, where we could have takeaways and help one another. And then at the end, we evaluated it. And what we said then through the summer was, be ready over the summer to develop this thoughtfully to do it better in the fall, because we'll get a pass for the spring, right, but we won't get a pass for the fall.
Right.
And but honestly, I'm not sure just how ready we would be if we would have to be back online for 2 or 3 more months. And so anyway, that's our situation at CIU with the emergency remote instruction.
Okay. Well, any other questions? Brian, thank you very much for your time today and for delivering that information. As I've noted, we're going to be having all these sessions available after the fact on our webinar demand system. So this will be shared again at another time. So thanks so much.
Terrific. Thanks, Josh. Thank you, everyone.